Hey there, Weld.com world. My name is Matt Schwartz and I'm the Welding Geek. The Welding Geek, you ask? Why the Welding Geek? Well, it's because I weld stuff like that for my day job. And I weld stuff like this for my hobby. So let's make something cool. So I've got 12 of these little diamonds here, and we're gonna put together this shape called a rhombic dodecahedron, I think is what it's called. So what that's gonna show you is kind of how I tack things together. I'm gonna do a bunch of TIG welding. I'm gonna do some gas welding too. This is 080, so aluminum is measured in the actual thickness. It's not gauge. So you'll see aluminum in like 063, which is 0.063, about a 16th of an inch. This is 080. And my preferred alloy of choice is 3003. And 3003 is wonderful because unlike 5052 and 6061, this stuff is less brittle. It's way easier to work with. It's pretty strong. I mean, we make all of our fuel tanks here for 330 mile per hour race cars that shake like crazy out of this material. So it's plenty strong enough. And the cool part about 3003 is you can fuse tack it without it cracking, so it's easy to put together. So our project here is I got 12 of these little diamonds, and as I put it together, it's gonna make this shape, and we're gonna TIG weld a bunch of them, or TIG weld all the seams, not a bunch of them, and then gas weld some of the seams as well, just to show off that cool gas welding aluminum, which is kind of a dying art, but it's also pretty cool. So I'm excited to show you guys that as well. All right, we're gonna start with the torch head and work our way to the machine. I run a nice Speedway torch head. I love these things. They're strong, they're tough. They have this nice shaped handle here that you can spin around. I like to hold it like that, so it locks into place. Get that torch angle head correct. It's really nice. I love Speedway torch heads. I run a gas lens, and usually between 6, 7, and 8 cup, depending on what I'm doing. Also gonna run a 2% thoriated tungsten when I'm welding aluminum. I know that's a little different. I like to try to keep as much of a point on my tungsten as possible, which will have to come into my balance as well, because if you run too much balance, you're gonna ball up that tungsten. I like to have it as pointy as possible because I run into a lot of situations where there's a tube through a flared hole. I wanna have that point control to start my puddle on that tube and burn it down into the flare. And when you have a balled up tungsten, it's really hard to get point control with your heat. So I like to be very precise, very control where my arc is pointing to. So like a 2% thoriated tungsten with as fine of a point. Now, it's not gonna be a pointy point. It is going to ball a little bit. And you'll see what I mean, hopefully, with some of these videos we're gonna be shooting. But 2% thoriated tungsten is the way I like to weld with. All right, going down to the machine, I've got a Dynasty 280 Miller welder. We're gonna show you, I'm probably run around 150 amps, depending on how things are coming out when I'm welding. That might seem a little high for some people, a little low, but I step weld, which is a different kind of welding where I'm gonna pulse the pedal with my foot manually. It's kind of like pulse welding through the machine, but I'm gonna do it all manually, and I do that for control. I'm all about controlling my puddle. I'm gonna run my balance at around in between 70 and 75. I've been playing with this. This is a new welder that I just got. Been trying to work through its kinks and work through its differences. Right now I'm happy with 72, and my frequency is gonna be really high at 250. So you're gonna hear this thing screaming. Welding aluminum, you need to be on AC. When you're looking at buying a TIG welder, I would highly recommend buying an AC DC welder, so you have the option of both welding aluminum and steel. So we're gonna put it on the amps. I'm running 100% argon. The flow rate is probably going to be probably around 30, maybe a little lower, just depending on how things are going. So that's how I have my machine set up. I am going to be using either a 16th or 3/32 40-43 rod. It just makes the weld seam less brittle. Now, if you're anodizing your part, the color is going to be slightly different, and that's why people don't like using 40-43. But I find 50-56 it can crack sometimes, and I don't like that. So we're gonna stick with 40-43. And then with gas welding, we're gonna use our 1100 rod. So I'm gonna get kind of situated here. Those are other things, don't forget. Have yourself a nice welding helmet with the right shade of lens so you're not burning your eyeballs out. I like to run my helmet when I'm welding around in between 150 to 200 amps. I'm gonna run shade 12. If I go above that, I might put in a 13 or a 14 in my other helmet. You're gonna want a mask, not necessarily for welding right now, but if you're welding something that might have paint off to the side, not in the weld, but that stuff's burning, you wanna be wearing a mask. Safety glasses and my gloves are way over there. I'm gonna have to go get them, but also a set of gloves to protect yourself. You want long sleeves, protect yourselves because you can get sunburn from welding, so you wanna protect yourself from that. And weld burns don't tan, they just burn. All right, so I'm gonna start tacking these diamonds together. And what I do typically is you have the tungsten and you want it perfectly flat at the end. So I'm actually going to put these together like this and then hold that against the metal and just pop the pedal and it should fuse tack together. These pieces, cleanliness wise, if you don't have plastic covered aluminum, you might want to wipe this stuff down with some acetone or deburr the edges, scrub them, but all this stuff here is plastic covered, so this should be plenty clean enough. So I'm gonna start tacking stuff. I'll get a couple tacks popped here and I'll bring it up to the camera and kind of show you what it looks like. And then we're gonna get to work getting this thing together because this is gonna be a lot of welding. Boom, just like that, they're tacked. Not a whole lot of penetration, but that will hold that together. And we're gonna start doing that all the way around this. We're trying to tack these things corner to corner. And then once we get a full shape, we'll start burning. This last and final diamond piece in there. I think I'm actually gonna pop a hole in it, flare it. So when I put this on, it'll be like a bass or something. Give it some function. Let's weld this thing. All right, it is gas welding time. Like I said, I left this last panel in a rhombic dodecahedron to gas weld. I've got just a standard torch here, gas welding torch. When you're welding aluminum, you use hydrogen and oxygen, not acetylene and oxygen. Hydrogen burns cleaner, so it's ideal for welding aluminum. I have my propane torch here to start my torch. We're also going to use a flux, more or less the argon or shielding gas of gas welding. I'm going to use this both on our project here and on the rod. And then we're going to start our flame. The flame's going to be kind of a feathered flame. So I'm going to flux this out. All right, so I preheated that just to get it hot, so when I put the flux on, it dries really quick. I'll go ahead and start my torch. You see just how clean that thing burns. It's a TIG weld, gas weld. So it more or less looks like another weld on the inside there. But the reason why we do this is a gas weld is a very strong, pliable weld. This weld seam, never gonna crack. You're more likely to tear the parent material than this weld failing at all, ever. And what we use it for, this is a top fuel funny car tank. And we gas weld these seams all the way around here on both the fuel tank and the dry sump tank. And what happens if you've ever been to an NHRA drag race, watched NHRA drag racing, these are like the most violent, explosive vehicles ever. The engines will grenade, they'll explode, they'll blow the bodies to bits and pieces. And sometimes they'll backfeed, especially into the oil tank, and balloon it, like boom. And yet this gas weld seam never fails. So that's where we do that gas welded seam. It's actually an old, like World War II method of welding for like the wing tanks and all the tanks for the old airplanes back in World War II. So it's kind of a dying art, but yet we still use it here on our fuel tanks, which is awesome. That's why I wanted to show off the gas welding. It's not something very many people do, but it's a beautiful weld, it's a strong weld, and it's pretty cool to be able to say you can do it. Yeah, I'm happy with that. Pretty cool. What do you guys think of that video? I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, I'd appreciate a like on the video. If you got any questions or comments, comment below, and I'll try to get back to you guys on those questions. I hope you guys will subscribe to the Weld.com channel. I hope you'll reach out to us over at Instagram and check out our Instagram and our Facebook. But most importantly, we now have a new app. It's the Weld.com app, where you can have access to, like me and all the other hosts at Weld.com. There is a ton of awesome content over there. They'll be specific to the app. It's also a place where you can show off your awesome welds. Also a place where you can introduce your company if you'd like to. Download the app and start building a profile on that. And that way you can introduce yourself to the Weld.com world. Also, as you can see here, this beautiful set of Mandalorian armor. I made this myself out of hand and out of metal. And you can see how I made all this stuff over at my channel, the Welding Geek, if you wanted to also check that out. My name is Matt Schwartz. I'm the Welding Geek, and thanks for watching, guys.